It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the two owners of Erase the Chalk. How are y'all doing today?
Good. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing good.
Doing very well, man. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Daniel, can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start Erase the Chalk podcast?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny, long story, I guess. I kind of want to keep a long story short. So started out, I wanted to start a, sports podcast, gambling podcast. And, I just realized on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere, everybody's selling their picks and all this. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be a part of that. So it grew from there, and I would just talk about the sports. And at that time it was football when I started it. And come, I want to say January of this year, I was about 5 episodes in, and my wife and Charles's wife, they're best friends. They went to college. Our daughters are actually best friends, and just going from there, my wife had the conversation with his wife. Hey, Charles wants to start a podcast. Hey, my husband has one. Maybe he can come on. And I messaged Charles. I'm like, here we go. Let's go. This is it right here. And from there, the chemistry between us, it's just that's one thing that you definitely need if you're going to have a co-host. You got to have the chemistry. And I've had a couple of friends of mine on, and people that I met through Facebook groups, and there was really no chemistry. I didn't know them. So that's one thing. But from there, I love talking sports. I'm a mailman. So I sit and listen to sports radio all day, and that's all I want to do is talk sports. So yeah, I mean, that's how I knew.
How did you come up with the name Erase the Chalk?
Yeah, it's funny. Erase the Chalk comes from an old horse racing term where they would actually write the lines of the odds for each horse, and once the lines moved in favor of whatever, they would actually erase the old tote boards because they would write in chalk. So I'm like, erase the chalk, erase the chalk. All right, let's go. It's gambling right there we go. But at that time, I was like, okay, what if I actually don't want to be backed into a corner and being known as, hey, you're the gambling guy? No, I want to be the sports guy. So moving forward to where we are now, we don't talk gambling. We kept the name because we have like battles back and forth during some of our episodes. And, Charles has beaten me all the time in basketball, but he had, who'd you have? You had the Nets to win the finals.
To win it all.
Yeah. And it's like, he would pick the Nets, and say, for instance, I would pick the Suns, and whoever would be the favorite there, I would go, say the Nets were the favorite. I'd pick the Suns. Hey, I'm erasing the chalk, but that's kind of where it comes from. You're not siding with the favorite, but we have our own opinions to each team, and that's the beauty of being able to voice your opinion over sports. And that's just wonderful.
Charles, can you talk about how you knew that y'all wanted to interview college athletes?
Yeah, we had our first guest, and it was really, really lucky. Cyrus Habib, from Oregon, running former Oregon star. We had him on, man. He posted something on his Instagram, a story saying he wanted to see what podcast was out there for him to come on and just to tell his story. And Dan, being a great Oregon fan, right away got into his message and told him about us, and he was willing to come on. And from there, it just took off. And then the idea from off of that episode of the views and the positive feedback from people was really good. And we just talked, and we said, all right, let's continue this. Especially with the college in the college level, because a lot of people are not interviewing college players like that, not allowing them to tell their stories. And why not, for us to hopefully be one or one of many podcasts that interview college athletes, because people tend to forget, you know, a lot about certain people, and especially college athletes that are not as a big name. Like, for example, Cyrus is a big name, but you know, no one still didn't know who he was. So you know, from there we just really wanted to, you know, create that type of avenue for us, and it's just been going great.
Daniel, can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to create that niche of interviewing college athletes instead of going a more route of maybe interviewing professional athletes or people?
Yeah, so you know, anybody who can say that they can get professional athletes, you know, they're lying through their teeth. It's honestly one of the hardest things to do is to get a professional athlete to come on your podcast, even if you just start out. Unless you have the name of Barstool or you know Spit and Chicklets, Up in Smoke, you know, unless you were a former player, that's the only way you're going to get a professional player on, or it's about your contacts. But you know, like Charles just said, you know, we had Cyrus of Evilikio come on, and from there he gave us Spencer Webb, who's a tight end for Oregon, and you know, Charles had Lamont Thomas, who was a good friend of his, who's a pro basketball player over in the Euro League. So from there, it's just like, okay, and they just pass on other people, and we're just like, okay, everybody's talking about these pro athletes. Nobody talks about these college athletes. We want to get their story. We want to get what they went through in high school, you know, what pushed them to play the sport they're playing, because we're not just basketball, football. We're starting to branch out to every single collegiate sport right now, and you know, it's great. And to hear their stories and to have our listeners and viewers know their stories and hear where they came from and where they are now and where they're about to go, it's just it's rewarding, and it's very enlightening, and you know, it's very humbling to hear what they have to say.
Charles, of course, with the new NIL that law that passed, before that, were you going through like the SIDs trying to get these college athletes, or were you just contacting them through like Instagram?
Yes, we were just contacting, you know, them through Instagram. I'm not sure. Then did we have any issue with? I think one.
We had one
Yeah.
player who kind of had an issue, but you know, it turns out he actually transferred from Texas Tech down to Texas
Yeah.
to play basketball, and I think that's one of the reasons why that fell off. But you know, we're just grassroots and messaging people on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere.
Yeah, and we're just, you know, again, we're getting lucky to have people respond back to us, and you know, are willing to come. I think I always say, like, we're, you know, all the guests that we've had, I lost count, but like we're undefeated on that part of, like, you know, after every episode we get a message from our guests saying thank you for having me on, we had a great time. And that's the most satisfying part for us, because you know, going into this, we didn't really think too much of anything.
Mhm.
You know, we just like, yeah, we're gonna talk sports. But now, just hearing those type of messages, hearing that positive energy from people, with which is our guests, is just very humbling for us. And so, you know, we're just emailing and sending direct messages to people through Instagram. And you know, like Dan said earlier, with our connections that from our guests, they're helping us out as well. And I think this is just due to the fact that we try to make our guests feel comfortable, and just three people literally just talking sports and having fun, and we laugh, we
Yeah.
make jokes, you know, we just do it all. So we're really happy of the results so far. And like I said, we're gonna keep going with this. We're gonna keep going.
That's amazing. Dan,
Yeah.
of course, with interviewing college athletes, have you also interviewed former, like current professional players that were former college athletes to hear their story on what it was like in college to now what it's like in the professionals?
I think we've only had about three former basketball players. We had Lamont Thomas, Michael Connor Morgan, and Anthony Gurley.
Yeah.
Were there any more? I don't think so.
No.
But yeah, you know, they didn't play. Well, Anthony Gurley played at where did he play? Wake Forest, and then he
Wake
transferred
Forest.
back over here to UMass, finished out his career, and then I think he played. Where did he play? He played
Israel, was it Israel?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
what he
something
said.
like that. Yeah, Israel. Yeah.
But you know, Lamont Thomas is out in the Euro League. he was D3 Johnson and Wales, and Michael Connor Morgan, he was D3. He actually went to school with our wives.
Yeah.
So that's how we got in contact with him. But yeah, just hearing their stories and just hearing how the college athletes, the players are now, it's crazy to hear. You know, they're coming out bigger and stronger than ever. So,
Yeah.
and just hearing their stories from their professional days, you know.
Charles, can you take me through like typical interview style that you do with a college athlete?
So before we go on live, we talk for about 15 minutes. Yeah, about 15 minutes, just to get used to get to know our guest. For example, like if I already know a guest coming on, we go back and forth. Like I'll have Dan get to know that guest more, and then if Dan knows, or even if he was the one that brought the guest, I'll take time for me to get used to talk to the guests as well. But we just make sure we try to make them feel comfortable right there before we even go live. And again, even that process, we laugh, we make jokes, and we just have a good time. And I think setting that tone is so important because then at that point it becomes natural for their guests, because a lot of our guests again, we're probably undefeated on that as well. Our podcast has been their first podcast that they've been on, so that's even more amazing for us, and I'm pretty sure it's probably a lot nerve-wracking for our guests as well, because once you say live, it's like, oh, okay, but we make sure we don't care. We try to. They can swear, or if they need to, we don't make it too serious, but we keep it at a great pace. And that's usually what we do. For me, I'll send us if I have a guest in mind, I just introduce myself, introduce Dan, and then I just say, really respect what you do for the sport. Want you to come on. Definitely call me or text me or DM me back if this is good for you. And then, again, we've been getting yes, of course, all that. So it's been great. So we're doing our part on that.
Of course, Dan, whenever you get the guest on, do you go through, since they aren't professional athletes, they don't have that much experience besides their college experience and high school experience, do you cover a lot in their college, like what it was like in the recruitment process and that kind of stuff?
That's one of the main things. We do ask a lot of questions when it comes to that. What schools reached out to you while you're in high school? A lot of our football guests, they have gone to D1 schools, and from before getting those offers from D1 schools, they were playing at some elite high schools, and just hearing that, and just hearing about their high school transition into their college transition, and just hearing some of the offers, some of the schools, it's like I'd be like, wow, they want me, they want me, but it's crazy to hear their stories and why they chose the school that they're at. And they have the transfer portal in college athletics, so it's just like recruiting all over again from some of our guests that have said it. It's like being a freshman all over again.
Of course, Charles, when you do have the guest on and you do talk about like the recruitment process, do you cover official visit and ask them what it was like during the official visit, like getting to try on their jerseys and stuff?
It's kind of a natural response from our guests, because once we ask how was your recruitment process, they usually answer and go based off of their full experience. So I don't think we've had that. I think we've probably asked a few times that question, but honestly, it's like natural for the guests to just continue and talk more about their experience, because once you say how was your recruitment or what schools try to get you, they go really deep into those moments. So I pretty much me personally, I haven't asked that question, but it's just based off because they come naturally with the answers from our guests. So
Dan, of course, with the new rule that passed with college athletics, the NIL, the name, image, and likeness, in July 1st, do you talk about the NIL on your podcast a lot, since it is basically a college sports podcast?
So the day that the NIL passed, we had Taylor Soul of Boston College basketball on, and just hearing what she's looking for, and the fact that she already has a women's basketball sneaker in process right now. She's been working with a company. It's pretty uplifting. And I think our last guest, Theo Burba, he's a track athlete over at Duke. We didn't really mention much of him. He's going into his junior year. We didn't really bring that up to him. I mean, just due to the fact he was injured last season. That's definitely a question that we're going to have, because some of our previous guests, including Spencer Webb, he got picked up by Barstool Athletics.
Yeah.
So that's huge right there. And, we'll be glad to have him back on. I don't know if we have to run the channels of going through Dave Portnoy to get him back on, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like I said a couple episodes of ours ago, I'm just happy that these players are finally going to get paid for what they're worth, because honestly, they play a lot harder than some of these professionals, because they leave everything out on the field, on the court, you name it. They're playing their hearts out.
Of course, Charles, starting off with you, what are some of the things that you've seen so far in the month with the new NIL passing that can help athletes more benefit from their name, image, and likeness?
I just see the confidence even a lot more with these athletes. They're once you tell them that now they can make money off of their names, I'm getting the sense of just all the athletes are just really going even harder and just wanting to just build a life for themselves, even if they don't get drafted or have a chance to go professionally. They have that not small, but that side professional job for them if they do decide to go that route, that can build off of their name. So I just think it's a different situation now. I feel, me personally, it's about time. I feel like this should have been happened before. But again, you got to take it now where it's hot. And I just feel like college athletes now, both men and women, are going full throttle on this right now, and I'm very excited. And honestly, for I don't want to speak for Dan, but for myself, having a daughter, if she decides to one day want to go hard in the athletic route in college, hopefully that this rule stands, and they have a chance to even build off of that off their name. So that is very inspiring, and I'm very excited for the future for college athletes, for sure.
What about you, Dan?
I mean, same thing goes with me. Like I just said, I'm happy that these players are going to get the opportunity. And, just seeing some of these athletes that have already gotten deals, they're not taking it for themselves. They're sharing it with the team. Yes. And that's one of the things that I had in my mind is, okay, you look at De'Aaron King. He signed with the quarterback down in Miami. He signed with College Hunks for, I think it was $20,000. And he's not keeping all that for himself. That's one of the things that I had in my mind was, okay, how's that going to feel if, your quarterback gets a huge deal and your whole entire offensive line, they don't have anything, right. They're just going to step back and let you take a sack. It's definitely something to look at, to see what some of these players are doing. And looking at not even a freshman, Archie Manning, he's already looking at a $10 million deal just because of his name, just because he's related to the Mannings. Like, come on. He hasn't even stepped foot on a collegiate field yet. But like I said, I'm just happy that they have a short period. They have 4 years, and with COVID, they get an additional 5th year. If they redshirted, they could possibly get a 6th year. And who knows? I just want to say, give Reggie Bush his Heisman back.
I'm sorry. And you're starting to. I have one more point. You're starting to see a lot of athletes that were going to the draft, but they're actually going back to school. And it's also, they probably want to work on their craft even more, but now they have that other safety net of, listen, I can get more money as well here, So it's a great time to be a college athlete right now.
That's both great points. Speaking about that, Charles, can you talk a little bit about what you feel like as players that think they should be able to make it into pros, and now with the NIL passing, they're like, let me make some money in college and
Yeah.
then go into pros.
Well, and there's a positive and negative thing. I feel like I'm hoping more positive for the athletes. I hope, when it comes to them making money in the college field, I'm hoping they actually really do not lose track on working on their craft, because ultimately you get paid more in the professional level. But that's my only concern is, are they going to be putting in the work even more once they get the money in college? And I'm hoping that they will, and I'm pretty sure they will once they see that first check, or they hear that energy coming their way with money. So that's my only concern when it comes to them wanting to work even more, because once you have money, sometimes it's kind of easy to just lay back and not really work on your stuff like that. But you usually see that in the professional level. So now that's my only question for the college athletes. Are you still going to act like you want it more, even though they deserve to get this money right now in college? So
Dan, as you talked about the quarterback that's getting paid and giving the money to the teammates, do you see more players like that doing that? And then also with teammates that aren't having big names, what do you see out of them, like when it comes to name, image, and likeness benefiting out of it?
I mean, I love the fact that some of these athletes are, they're going to go ahead and share some of their check with their team, because, if you have a broken locker room, your team's going to fall apart, and the whole entire NIL is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Or, you're going to have the best team without the NIL in place. And then, once it gets put in place, you're going to have the worst team, because there's going to be no chemistry between the team. I do like some. I can't think off the top of my head. There was another player. I think he signed for, I want to say $100,000. He shared every single penny with every single one of his teammates. That's definitely a plus, and it's definitely something that other players need to incorporate if they're going to be greedy. But towards some of these smaller athletes that, the D1 compared to, D3 colleges, they're the D3 colleges, they're going to get local businesses maybe to endorse them. And, that just adds fuel. Like Charles said, it adds fuel to their I guess training and practice, and it's just going to make them want to push themselves to the next level to get to these D1 schools, to get these big bar stools and college hunks and all these other big Nike, Reebok, you name it. That's the end game for some of these athletes that are at the lower levels.
Charles, of course, with the NIL passing, do you see in the future you might be able to make money from playing? So doing something like playing just like, of course, the NFL and professional does?
I do. I feel like, again, things can change, right? Things can change within the matter of a few years, because the reason why I say that is because of how long it's taken to get to this point, and it's been a constant battle to have athletes get paid, college athletes get paid. So I feel confident enough that this can continue with players just really just trying to focus on themselves, focus on their school, focus on their athletics, and focus on their possible businesses. And that's a great point what Dan said about the D3 athletes, getting local businesses, but wanting to get to the top level. I just feel like, I'm hoping things just stay where it's at right now. But obviously change is good. You need change. But like if this is going good so far, if the college league have seen a positive impact with the players outside of the field or court, because again, they have personal lives, they have families, that everybody has issues sometimes. And it's just, I'm just hoping this continues to be a positive thing.
Dan, do you plan on interviewing professional athletes to like hear their stories on how they were in college?
That's definitely a goal of ours. Like I said earlier, it's definitely a reach to try and get some of these pros. The closest thing to professional athletes we've had was, I mean, they were professionals and some of them still are, they're in the Euro League. Um, I got lucky. I had one of my personal friends growing up. He was a video coach for the Boston Bruins, JP Buckley. He came on, told his story, and it wasn't a normal sports story. It was what goes on behind the scenes. He's telling us all this technology that they're using when it comes to workload, and how even some of these young soccer teams are using like some analytics program on some of their kids to let them know when they're ready to join in the league. And I brought it up with him, the future of technology in sports, and that's crazy. But to your point, trying to get these professional athletes on to know their story, I think the collegiate level is amazing because not everybody knows their story. You look at James Harden, Dwayne Wade, even LeBron James. Everybody knows their story. It's one of those things where you'll just be repeating the same stuff that you can. I mean, I don't like using Wikipedia, but you can go on Wikipedia and look at. I like looking at these collegiate athletes, and I think further down the line we would like to interview some professional athletes. But honestly, I think the collegiate level's where it's at because we're going to get to them before they get to the league. Yes. So anybody who's looking, once these players reach the league, they're going to look for videos and interviews. They're going to be looking at us. So that's gonna hey, maybe that'll bring us up to the next Barstool bench mob. Spitting chicklets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Charles, what are some of your future plans when it comes to the podcast?
Oh, just to keep going where we're going. Again, great point, Dan. What you said. I for me, I get more excited interviewing guys that we haven't heard of, or women as well that we haven't heard of, and just telling them their stories. I just feel like the thing that excites me is we're actually interviewing college athletes that possibly can get to the league, right? So that's more important for me, and I just think growing together with Dan, just growing the brand, and we've been doing that. I want to give a nice shout out to Lamont Thomas for inviting us to his Play for Peace tour event in Providence, Rhode Island that he had a few weeks ago, and that's just inspiring for us that we're getting noticed, we're getting invited to different stuff to be a part of, and we're having fun with this. That's the number one thing. We're just having fun, and it's good to just come on every week. The day we come on and just interview these people, and if we don't have a certain guest, sometimes we still have fun when it's me and Dan talking sports. So we're growing. For me, Dan tells me all the time, try to slow down a little bit because I'm just so I'm thinking of future thinking. But it's good to just really enjoy the process, and that's what I've been trying to do.
Dan, of course, with the NIL passing and everybody starting to branch out to college athletes, have y'all created something where y'all can endorse college athletes to help them?
I mean, at this point, I wish. There's not much money in the bank when it comes to that. I have reached out to a few people. Hey, we can't offer much, but we would love to work something out with you, if possible. But we would like to work with some of these athletes because who knows what the future could hold.
Yeah.
What is something that y'all both learned now that y'all didn't know before starting the podcast?
You want me to go down? You?
No, go ahead.
I would say for me, I would say just the real grind, and for example, if we have let's say a higher up guest that we coming on, just doing the research, just asking some questions that they had with the accolades, and just to try to get a good answer out of them, and just really see what they were thinking in that moment or how they were feeling. We're really big on like the mental health part as well, and we have these moments when we ask serious questions as well. And I just think for me, like I try to get into the athlete's mind every time we have guests, just to see how they are, and how they, again, like I said, how they felt in that particular moment. But I think that's one thing that I've learned is just, man, these athletes work hard and they want it. I think all of our guests have been, the one common thing is, they're very humbled individuals, and really fun, and down to earth. So that's one thing that I'm taking out of this right now.
Dan?
And me? I mean, honestly, just certain things. When you're recording, we started, just recording. You pick up the ums and the certain things that you repeat over and over again. You listen to the episode, you're just like, why did I keep saying that? Why did I keep saying, It's like everything. That's one of the things you pick up. And I'd probably say another thing that we picked up would be just going with it, honestly. And don't even overthink it. Just keep going. If you have a thought, just go with it. And you could be wrong, you could be right, it could be controversial, which could be great for the show. Starts a conversation. That's what you want. You want a conversation, and you want your guests to react, because now we stream live. If we say something, our guests are going to go ahead and put something in the chat, and they're going to say something. We'll pop it up on the screen and we'll talk about it. So just to get the conversation going, that's what I love. And just moving forward, who knows what we could learn even more. There's so much to learn.
Starting off with you, Dan, what advice would you give somebody looking to start their own sports podcast interviewing college athletes?
I would give I'd give the same advice that was given to me. Just go for it. Just go. Don't even think twice about it. Who cares if it's just your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, cousin listening, one person listening? Who cares? That one person is going to listen. And then, hey, that next person is going to listen. You're going to get 2 listeners. Then you're going to get 5 listeners. And it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And you're going to get better at what you do. You don't come out the gate being some of these great podcasts, these great sports talk shows. You have to learn from experience. And like I say during like job interviews, how am I going to get experience if I'm not given the opportunity to get experience? So this was our learning curve. And hey, we are where we are right now because I just got pushed into it. And then I dragged Charles with me. I said, let's go. All right. So just go with it. Don't even think twice. But who cares if you don't have a mic, if you don't have the, crazy lights, just go for it. Start recording on your phone. Download anchor.fm and you can record a podcast on your phone.
Yeah.
Somebody will listen, and who knows where that'll lead.
Charles, do you have any advice?
Have a team around you, because it as easy as it sounds, it does take a lot. Me and Dan, we're still up and running with our platform with this, but we've had talks that, sometimes there's be times where we're like, all right, we need somebody that can really control the social media part. We have someone possibly working on our website, so we're diving into that as well. So just having a team, being confident and just being yourself, and not doing too much like some of these other podcasts have, is just, asking, yes, it's good to ask serious questions, but you don't want to be too in depth with questions, because you want to mix it up. And that's another thing I could probably say that I've learned is just, asking random questions, making it fun, making it serious, and making it just overall a great experience. So just have a team. That's one thing. Have a team, and if you're doing it by yourself, really credit for you, and shout out to you, Brandon, what you're doing. Again, man, you're for me, I'll say you're the goal right now, because now your subscribers, man, that's credit for you, man. You've been doing it for a few years, and we wish you luck, man, with your sports podcast as well.
Thank you. Where can my listeners find your podcast at on social media and podcast platforms?
So we go live every Thursday night using StreamYard. It goes straight to our Facebook page, Erase the Chalk, our Facebook group, Erase the Chalk. And then it goes live on our YouTube channel, Erase the Chalk. and it goes on our Twitter feed at @erase_the_chalk. We're trying to work on a Twitch right now, but that's mainly where you can find our videos. As far as audio, we use Anchor, and that gets uploaded to Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast. It gets uploaded everywhere. So anywhere that you can find a podcast, that's where you can listen to us. If you want to watch us, like I said, hop on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and follow us on Instagram at @erase_the_chalk. We put up some clips and we tell you where to go and watch the full episode.
Thank you again, Dan and Charles, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Erase the Chalk podcast.
Thank you, Brandon. It was great talking to you.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at @talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Dan and Charles, for your interview, and best of luck with the Race the Chalk podcast.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.